Thursday, July 25th, and this is Geeknights. Tonight we talk about the Nintendo classic, semi-classic Advance Wars. Let's do this!
Not moments ago, I braved almost certain death to bravely fight a small, tiny nest of paper wasps.
You know, I don't think you would have died even if they all stung you in the eye.
You know what, though? That would have hurt a lot, and I really don't like it when things hurt.
Yeah. And how are you 100% sure they were paper wasps? They could have been any kind of wasp.
Actually, no.
Hornet
I
thing.
did a bunch of research at work because I really didn't have much to do today, and I learned all the differences between wasps, yellow jackets, hornets, bees, bumblebees, and various other nefarious stinging bits. And the main thing I learned is that the things that were living on our deck were almost certainly paper wasps.
And what kind of characteristics of paper wasps makes you believe that that's what they were?
1, they looked exactly like the pictures on the websites. 2, their nest looked exactly like the picture of the nest that a paper wasp makes, which is very different from a hornet's nest. You see how it had all those open, exposed cells, and it was made out of that papery stuff?
Yep.
The hornet's nest have this whooshing kind of paper, and it looks completely different. And a lot of yellow jackets live in the ground.
Yeah, I hate it. In my yard at home, my parents' house, a lot of bugs would live in holes in the ground. We'd have to fill them up or spray poison down there with the hose.
Yep, there will be pictures in the forum of this because
Well, one crappy picture.
That's fine.
Yeah.
See, I remember I'm about to go, and Scott says, I'm recording, and then I fought the bees. And then Scott says, "Oh, I wasn't recording."
That's what I get for trying to use a digital photo camera. I tried to use the video feature on it, which is not the greatest, and I didn't. It wasn't enabled, even though I thought it was. It wasn't recording when I thought it was, and it just wasn't good. But I did take 1 or 2 photographs, so
which were worth it because I wasn't afraid of actually dying or being hurt because I'm pretty sure I'm not allergic to any of these sorts of stings. I just didn't want to feel any pain, and originally, my plan was I'll buy the most dangerous poison I can buy without a license or any special permission or training, and I was going to follow the instructions and spray down this nest. Now, I didn't even want to get rid of the nest. I was fine with it there because they hadn't bothered us at all. But in my research, I learned that wasps of that kind will, as the summer goes on toward fall, get more and more aggressive as they forage. And considering that they were on our deck in a place we frequent, it would have been a bad idea to let that nest get any bigger.
well, it's dead now.
Oh, it is dead. I filled it so full of poison,
Yeah.
and then I destroyed it with the hose. But I didn't want to get stung, and every single website I read said, you will get stung if you try to take one of these down.
So screw those websites. They're all written by idiots who didn't get stung.
Well, a bunch of them came at me. And before they died, and I felt at least one of them bounce off of my trench coat. You see, I put on armor. I put on blue jeans and a shirt, and then I put my old trench coat on, which, unlike my new wonderful one that Emily and her family gave me, the old one is filled with the wax and decay of many, many years of Rim wearing it in all weather. It is basically armor. And I suited up, and I put gloves on, and over my head, I had a veil tucked into my neck made out of my
it was just a mesh laundry bag.
Yeah, and you know what? It worked pretty well.
Yeah.
At least I didn't die or anything.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, because I didn't want to risk one stabbing me in the eye.
Yeah. All right. So there are 2 things I just want to pay note to real quick that it seems that no one else in the universe noticed.
Including me.
Yesterday was the 150th episode of Geeknights, which, hooray for arbitrary numbers. Whatever.
Well, the thing is, it's hard to say because, 1, there was one slight inconsistency in our numbering way back. 2, we started with episode 1, but then the next day we uploaded an episode from the previous day, which became our very first episode, and I gave that the number 0. And there are a bunch of episodes we made before we had a website.
Well, here's how I counted. You ready? The audio, which is what we're going to talk about next, is they have a thing that tells you how many episodes there are, and in their list, they had every single episode that is on our website that is listed in the blog. So not counting the beta alpha episodes of Geeknights, there were 150 of them as of yesterday.
All right, because Yahoo gives a different number and feed, but nothing gives the right number.
Yeah, I checked. Audio had the right number.
All right.
Okay, also, people don't seem to notice that this past Saturday, was the 10th anniversary of The Daily Show.
Don't you feel old? Don't you feel real old?
Here's something to make you feel older. That other guy, Craig, what's his face?
Kilborn.
He was only on the show for 3 years. Jon Stewart has been on the show for 7 years.
Now, the thing is, not only do I remember the very first episode of The Daily Show, because I watched it, and
Wasn't it on the same night as the first episode of South Park? It was like right around the same time.
All I know is that I was at band camp, right? And someone because someone was a senior and they had a car, and they snuck out at night, drove back home, which is like a 2-hour drive. They went to their parents' house, who had taped both shows for them, drove back, and this was like 3 days after it actually aired. We eventually got this tape, and we watched South Park and a bunch of other stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah, but I remember when Craig Kilborn was going to leave the show, and I thought, all right, that's the end of the show. Who's this Jon Stewart guy? I didn't know he was actually famous from other stuff. I didn't know he did anything.
Yep.
And I thought the show was going to be stupid. And after about 5 minutes, I realized that Craig Kilborn was nothing to me.
So everyone write it down. 3 years from now, in 2009, on July 22nd, that's the 10th anniversary of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
Now, I wonder how many of our younger listeners don't even know who Craig Kilborn is.
I don't know. We seem to be really detached from that sort of pop culture thing, so I'm sure that they know better than we do.
I don't know, because it seems like Comedy Central stuff seems to be a lot more hip to the geeks, because all the clips that are relevant are on YouTube anyway.
Yep. Okay, and last thing is the Odeo thing. For anyone who doesn't know, Odeo is a website that lets you handle podcast making and listening and all sorts of stuff.
Odeo.
Yeah.
Odeo.
It's an okay website. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the point is that if you go to frontrowcrew.com, down in the bottom right side of the page, way at the bottom on the right, there's a link that says, send me an Odeo. Now, there is also a link above that, way above that, that says, like, just Odeo. That's not the one you want. You want the one in the bottom, below the Frapper link. And, oh yeah, you should do the Frapper map thing if you haven't already. And if you click on that, it will take you to a web page where you can send us an Odeo. This means you plug a microphone into your computer, and this little Flash program runs in your browser, and it's dead simple to record a message and then click send, and we will get that message in MP3 format to play on the show. So that's the easiest way now to send us voicemail, is to click on that send me an Odeo link in the bottom right-hand corner of the page.
Now, here are Rim's fantastic hints for how to get us to actually play what you send us. 1, keep it less than like 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, 4 or 5 minutes is pretty long. I mean, other podcasts say keep it less than 30 seconds. So.
Yeah, keep it short, keep it to the point, have something to say.
Don't go, ramble. Rehearse it a few times. This thing lets you record, erase, and then record again. So you can keep doing it until you get it right, unlike some phone calling things.
Now, I mean, we've gotten a bunch of long audio feedbacks in the recent weeks, and we're probably not going to play them anytime soon, because stuff like that will probably save for Geeknights specials when we're, out of town and we need filler.
Or if there's an episode pertaining to that very thing, or if we want to turn the long feedback into an episode itself.
Yep, and also, generally, whenever we get a long feedback, bear in mind that we're probably going to edit it to hell.
Yeah.
Just a warning.
So, anyway, now, for those of you who had a hard time sending us audio feedback, like if we're saying something on the show and you go, oh my god, those guys, go to frontrowcrew.com, click on the send me an Odeo link, and start recording whatever your rant is, and then when you're done, click send.
Because I worry that we're going to be in the situation that Penn Jillette is now on his radio show, where the best fun he seemed to have was when people who hated him and disagreed with him and were angry at him would call in.
Mm-hmm.
But now the only people who listen to him are people who like him and generally agree with him. So I hope some of you disagree with us enough to yell at us.
Yes. But now it's very easy to yell at us.
And we do have some news. We have 2 newses today. Now, many of you will be happy that in the news we have, in fact, 2 newses. But first, I gotta say this again because it doesn't seem to be getting through to everyone. When we said we're gonna, cut down on the length of the show a bit and possibly only do 1 news every now and then, I don't mean the show is gonna get short. The show's still gonna be 45 to 55 minutes, like it always has been.
Yeah, we're just not going to do 90-minute shows.
Unless we have a really good reason to. But it seems like half the emails we get have been saying, please don't make the show really short. Please don't. Oh my God. And actually, even if we cut it down to the minimum we considered cutting it down to, it's still longer than it was when Geek Night started by far.
Yeah.
So don't worry. We're getting a lot of email about this, so I just wanted to say it again.
Okay.
Anyway, in the actual news, this was going to be a thing of the day, but the forum discussion has prompted me to use it otherwise. Monopoly, that terrible American board game, is updating itself. They are now going to do what Scott and I did when we were little kids for the longest time, but now, I guess the rest of the world's caught up. Instead of using the paper money in the new sets, you'll have a debit card and some sort of calculator-like thing, and all the money will be digital.
All right.
Now, I say this is great, except that I don't really care about Monopoly. The game is generally a terrible game, even though I played it a lot when I was a young kid, only because I didn't know better.
Yeah, I also played it a lot as a young kid because what other board games did I have to choose from?
Well, I had Risk and Axis and Allies.
I had Risk and Axis and Allies and Dynabones.
Yep. I had
Stampin'.
Fireball Island.
I had a lot of board games that, other kids didn't have that were pretty cool. But, like, Free Parking, that was great. The Monopoly spinoff.
Yeah.
That was a great game.
Now, the thing is,
Officer Jones.
The discussion on our forums, people seem to be arguing that, but the paper money was important or whatever. And I'm not going to really go into why Monopoly is a broken, terrible game, because that is a purview of another show entirely. I could do a whole show on Monopoly. In fact, I could tell you exactly how to give yourself the best chance of winning. A simpleton could do it.
Everyone knows that. It's on the internet.
A monkey could do it. You could train a monkey to play Monopoly and win as much as even the best Monopoly player.
Mm-hmm.
But some people were arguing that having the physical money can somehow change the game. And that is outright not true, other than possibly your own internal psychological things.
Exactly.
Now, their arguments were, one, that openness. By having physical money, you can see what everyone else has. And basically, that comes down to the rules of the game. If the rules of the game say specifically that money is open, then money is open. Meaning, even if you're using a calculator or something, if someone asks you how much money you have to tell them. You can't lie.
Or you just have your calculator sitting wide open on the table. Anyone can look at it at any time.
Yeah, it depends on what the rules say.
You can make a special Monopoly calculator that shows the number just in bright, big LCD screen that everyone can see.
And two, the money can be a crutch for some kinds of people. The calculator can be a crutch for other kinds of people. It's really kind of arbitrary, and it doesn't actually affect the game. It just affects how you have to...
It doesn't affect the game. It only affects the psychology of people.
And how you think about the game.
Yeah. Which is basically nothing.
But in the end, it just amazes me that every time Monopoly sales wane, they can just make some other Monopoly set like Star Wars Monopoly or RIT-opoly and sell a bunch more, even though it's the same goddamn game.
Yep. Okay, my news is there was a Nintendo press release. Dun dun dun. And it was a pretty funky press release, actually. They talked about a lot of the games that are going to be released towards the end of this year. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because you can do that yourself, but I'm just going to go over the main points. Final Fantasy V is coming to the Game Boy Advance on November 6th.
I'm very happy about that, even though that is the hardest freaking Final Fantasy ever made.
The Touch Generations stuff is going to come out. Yeah. And basically, starting October 9th, there's going to be a new game, a DS game released every week. The Touch Generation, the new Nintendog Dalmatians, Magical Star Sign, I don't know what that is, Pokemon Ranger, okay. Children of Mana, we're going to get that. Elite Beat Agents, isn't that the Beat game?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yoshi's Island 2, Custom Robo Arena, and Kirby Squeak Squad. Now, the last bit of this press release is the interesting part. I'm going to read this verbatim. Everything I say from now until I say, otherwise, is directly from the Nintendo press release, all right?
Including that?
No, starting now. And for Nintendo GameCube owners, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess will be available for you this fall. An enhanced version also will be a launch title for Wii. That will all happen on ... Oh, look, we're out of space.
God damn it.
Now, I can't remember what website I saw it on, but the guy deduced that Nintendo was hinting that the release date for Wii and whatever was all coded into this press release somehow.
Yeah.
And he said that, his source at Nintendo kinda, sorta, wink-winked it and said, yeah, So his deduction was that the Wii release date is October 2nd, because if you look at this release thing table, there's a new game every week except for the second 2 weeks in November, which is Black Friday. What?
You keep saying I'm sorry. I just couldn't get past it.
Oh.
Anyway.
Except for Black Friday and another week, which is past the release of the PS3, so it can't be that week. So he's deduced that the release date for Wii is October 2nd.
Huh. We'll find out if that's true.
Yes, we will.
I give it a 50-50 shot.
I think that's the best guess we've had yet, looking at these release times. But
well, the thing is, as time goes on, the number of possible days decreases pretty much on a day-for-day basis.
Well, it has to be a week. It's not, so there are only... It's not like they have a choice of any day in the week.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the time frame is counting down because it's gonna come out before the end of the year.
Yeah, so there's 4 weeks. It's probably not going to be in August or September, right? So if it is in September, I guess it could be. So you got 2 weeks at the end of September that are possible. 4 weeks of October and like 2 weeks in November. So if you guessed, you got pretty much a 1 in 8 shot of getting it right.
I'd say we'd make a Geeknights pool, but I don't really care enough.
Hey, that's a good idea.
Well, we could. If you want to handle it, I'll talk about it.
Nah, let's forget it.
Great. If anyone in the forums wants to run a pool on when the Wii is coming out, just put it up in the forums.
Yeah.
We won't stop you.
Mm-hmm. Even though, someone else might, some legal type person who doesn't...
No. We won't gamble. It's just a pool. The amounts of money we're claiming to send to each other is purely fake money, where no one's actually going to send anyone any money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
And I don't
We're
have...
just going to PayPal each other bits, zeros and ones.
I don't have any illegal MP3s either. I don't have any ROMs. I've never pirated a movie. I don't even know what BitTorrent is.
Okay. But you just said BitTorrent, so...
Things of the day, which are probably going to stay in the middle of the show due to popular demand.
Okay.
All right. So many of you are familiar with Daft Punk, which is one of my favorite bands, consisting of 2 French dudes.
They are to awesome.
And if you don't know them, check out Interstellar 5555. Just Google it. It's a DVD. Buy it and watch it.
Yeah, that'll pretty much give you everything you need to know about Daft Punk.
Yeah, either that or find that old Flash video, More Than Ever Hour After to River City Ransom.
Just search for Daft Punk on YouTube or Google Video or Google, and you'll find everything that's good.
Now, I use this as a thing of the day mostly because people have been talking about music a bit in the forums, and a lot of people have kind of asked what kind of music we like, which is not an easy question to answer at all.
A lot of music.
Basically, you would have to ask us what music don't we like, and even then, it's hard for us to name anything.
It would be easier to list the music we don't like than to list the music we do, because there's a lot, and there's also a lot of music we don't know about, so we can't say.
Yeah, but there aren't genres of music that we really dislike. There are just a lot of very specific things we dislike.
Like, I don't like most country music, but I like Western music.
Yeah, and there is some country music, straight up country, that I like. Not much, but there's some.
Yeah, and it's like...
and I really like Western music.
Yeah.
And honky tonk.
God.
Yeah.
Too much.
We like everything. But anyway, we really like Daft Punk. And this is just a really cool interview with them. And Leiji Matsumoto's there. I don't know how much he talks in the interview because I didn't watch the whole thing. It's pretty much just an interview of Daft Punk.
Yep.
It looks like it was done right after they finished Interstellar 5555.
Mm-hmm. And so Daft Punk are 2 French guys who make all this great music, and they never let you see their face in public as a few other bands do, because that way they can still go hang out at clubs and stuff, and no one goes, "Oh my God, Daft Punk! Oh my God!"
Now, in this interview, it's a video interview, so the way they did it is they're wearing robot suits, and you can't see their faces or their hands.
Yep. And it seems like their interview is recorded in a sound studio somewhere else, and that they just videotape them doing a bunch of robot stuff so that you can watch that while you listen to the interview.
I wonder if they did the interview in any way where people could see their faces, or if they wore some sort of veil.
I think they let, their agent and, interview people. I think they just don't put it anywhere super public. Or during a concert or in a music video or an interview on TV.
So you know what? Here's a bounty that I don't think any of our listeners will fulfill. If you can get me a picture of the two dudes from Daft Punk.
I saw a picture on Google Images. You don't want to bet that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to bet anything.
Okay.
I was going to bet nothing.
I'm pretty sure I saw one on Google Images. So
You know what, though, Scott? If no one knows what they look like, just find a picture of some guy and say it's him. Who's going to know?
I think the point is that, even if you know what they look like, it's their faces don't become famous.
True.
That
Well,
way
you know
no
what?
one walking down the street will recognize
You know what? It's like V.
Yeah, kind of.
They're an idea. It doesn't matter who they are.
Yeah, it does. They had to be these two awesome French guys.
Yeah,
or else
whatever.
They're going to make shit music.
It's not. At least they're not like the Blue Man Group, where they made a group that because of the way they dress, they're completely interchangeable. So the band actually has a crazy number of people in it, and they do shows all over the place with different groups.
Yeah, okay. My thing of the day is the world's biggest hole. That's right, the biggest hole.
I was gonna make some sort of joke, and I couldn't come up with anything good. The only thing I could think of was the asshole song.
All right, you ready? It's in Russia.
Odio, Odio.
The biggest hole in the world is in Russia.
The world's biggest hole.
It's actually a diamond mine in eastern Siberia.
Is it still a diamond mine?
No.
So it's just a hole now.
Yes. It's 525 meters deep and 1.25 kilometers in diameter.
Whoa! I have a terrible urge to throw a rock into that.
The hole is so big that it's caught the suction of the hole's existence has caused several helicopter crashes. Several.
I really want to throw a rock in this thing.
And now it is illegal to fly over the hole.
No, seriously, this picture Scott just showed me is pretty freaking amazing.
There's a picture here of a truck that was used to go down and haul up stuff out of the hole. And the truck's mighty big. And when you look at like the spiraling road that goes down the hole, it's wow, it really puts it in perspective. Let me just say that.
Yeah, now I will say that because this was a diamond mine and the fact that Russian diamonds play a big part in what's happened
I
to
think
the
it might
diamond
still be a
industry.
diamond mine.
We should do a show about the diamond industry someday.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a big show we could do.
Yeah, someone write that one down.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think this actually might still have diamonds coming out of it.
great. You know, if it's deep enough, I wonder if the amount of gas it takes to drive the diamonds up is worth less than the time it could take to just make a diamond in Genesis or something.
No, because I don't know.
Diamonds aren't worth anything, so.
I know. Anyway. So today we're going to talk about Advance Wars.
Yes, we are.
Mhm.
Advance Wars is a game that, well, we're not going to talk about the Japanese releases or anything.
Because we don't know much about the Japanese releases, and it's hard to find reliable information about them.
All I know is that what we got as Advance Wars 1, when it was released in Japan, Olaf looked like Santa Claus.
Yeah, there was a series of games in Japan from Nintendo, and I don't know what it was called, but it was basically, it's the Advance Wars that we have.
Yes. Now, the games they're a lot like those Desert War type games for the old NES and SNES, or trying to think, I don't even remember what all these games were, but games where you have military units that are described very simply. You know, they have a small number of stats, and there's different types, and you move them around and fight with another group who has similar units, and you try to capture bases, destroy units, and, general puzzly military stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of complicated war games out there with crazy maps and hexagons and all sorts of numbers. Advance Wars is the same kind of game, but it's way simpler. I mean, you've got a grid of squares. All the units are simple. It's infantry, mech guy, tank.
Mechanized infantry.
Yeah, bigger tank.
Biggest
Fighter
tank.
jet.
Even bigger tank.
Bomber. Battleship. Jeep.
Yep.
All that sort of stuff.
And the thing is, the way the game plays out is, while it's a military kind of, move units around and fight game, for the most part, unless you're playing against other people or in certain special campaign missions, the game is more a puzzle game than a military game.
It really is a puzzle game.
Well, at least in the first Advance Wars.
Well, even in it's sort of like a puzzle, but it's got like a lenient solution. You know how like some puzzle games, there's one solution. You either figure it out or you don't figure it out. Advance Wars is more of a puzzle game where there are a lot of slightly different solutions. One solution might be quicker, one might take longer, one might get you done really quick, but have a bad score.
Well, I guess the point I was making is that Advance Wars 1 compared to 2, and there's a progression definitely, that the early Advance Wars game was very, very, there were few options, and the game was very unforgiving, especially in the later stages or in the hard campaign, where if you made one single mistake, or it got to the point where if you moved one unit to the wrong place, you lost. You would lose the war. In Advance Wars DS, the third iteration, the game had evolved to the point to where not only were there usually many multiple different strategies to win, but the individual movements of a single troop alone would usually not screw you, and you could always still win. You wouldn't get bowled over just because you put an infantry in the wrong square. You'd only get bowled over if you made poor tactical decisions on a broader scale.
Yep.
The game became less of a puzzle game and more of a war game as the series went on, but it is still definitely a puzzle-oriented game.
Let's do some informational stuff. There are 3 Advance Wars games available in the United States of America.
The first 2 came out for the Game Boy Advance, and they're called Advance Wars 1, or Advance Wars, and Advance Wars 2, Black Hole Rising.
Yep, and the third Advance Wars game is a DS game, which is Advance Wars DS.
Dual Strike.
Dual Strike, yes. They were very clever in their DS using.
All right, now they're puzzle games / military games, and there is also a very Japanese element of, in addition to just having these units, you have COs or commanding officers, and not only do they all have different powers, like if you pick one CO, all your tanks are stronger. If you pick a different CO, or infantry are really badass. They all have personalities, and they all interact with each other, and as you play through the campaigns, you get to see this more. And this is really, really brought to the the furthest extreme it has been yet in Advance Wars DS, where depending on what characters you use in certain battles, you see different bits of plot, and there's romance between the COs, and all sorts of funny stuff that has nothing to do with the game.
Yep, and not only that, but every CO has a special CO power.
Yep, and the way the mechanic works is kind of neat. I mean, you're fighting, I've got my tanks, and Scott's got his tanks, and you're battling it out. Anytime your units take damage, your little CO power meter goes up.
And anytime you deal out damage, it goes up also.
However, when you take damage, it goes up more than twice as fast as when you deal out damage.
So if you're losing and you're taking a lot of damage, you're going to get your power more often to sort of help even out the game, but it doesn't really, it's not really a handicap, but it's there. It sort of makes the game last a little bit longer and make it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the function it serves, and I'll preface this, and we're not going to talk about the strategy of the game, because that would be another episode or two.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not kidding when I say that I am freaking amazing at this game. I mean...
You play too much.
I did play too much. Advance Wars 1 and 2, I beat every single mission with an S, and I unlocked everything. Advance Wars DS, the only reason I didn't unlock everything and beat everything is because a lot of the maps are the same as the maps in Advance Wars 1 and 2, so I just didn't bother with them again.
Mm-hmm.
But I really, I figured out almost everything about this game. And it seems to me that the CO powers serve a very critical purpose in that they prevent people from winning by pure dumb luck, and they force you to win by winning as opposed to just squeaking by someone and winning on a technicality.
Yeah.
So say I'm beating Scott up a lot, and I roll up and I destroy a bunch of his units, but I don't have enough units in my supply line to follow through and finish him off. Now, because I failed to plan, and I didn't actually destroy him, I just beat him back really bad, he gets a CO power that I didn't get. He uses that to counterattack my thinly supported units that are far off in his field, recapture everything, and now we're back at square one.
Yep. The other thing is this different COs have different lengths in their CO meter. So depending on, some people have an incredibly powerful CO power that destroys everything, and some people have a power that's kind of weak. None of them are weak, useless, but some of them aren't as strong as others. So the COs that have less useful powers get them more often because their meter fills up faster because it's smaller.
There's also a mechanic that for every time you use your CO power, it takes more damage to make it fill up the next time. So you can't keep, if you keep getting your CO power over and over and over and over and over again because you're sucking, but the other person's also kind of sucking, so they can't finish you off, they're just beating you back. Eventually, you're not going to be getting your CO power so much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The game really isn't handicapped in any direction.
Yep. All right, what else is there to know about this game?
Yeah, I mean, the game is very much. I mean, all the units are very archetypical and very distinct. You know, you have infantry.
They're also cute.
Yes, the game is very cute, but yet it's almost disturbing. I mean, think of this. It's war. You are sending troops against each other to fight and kill and die for you.
There are people taking over cities, bombing each other, shooting big guns at each other, killing people.
And the COs are oblivious to this because you even meet some
They're
of the
just
troops.
happy anime characters.
Like there's a point at which some of the troops are talking to you, and they're like, and it's kind of sad because you're sending them to their deaths. But the way the game is, like, one CO is marching through a land, right? And this other CO will come up, and they'll talk, and then they'll be like, I don't know if we can be friends. Let's fight first. And then they'll fight and kill a whole bunch of people, and then they'll decide, yeah, we can be friends, and then they'll march together. It's just really silly.
It's God, yeah.
But the game itself is not silly at all. The game is actually an incredibly well done tactical and strategic game that has many, many levels of strategy.
Yeah, I like how it's a turn-based game, which you don't see a lot of these days. But it really helps out because, you know, a lot of RTSs and such, the thing that matters most is knowing how to build things in the correct order for speed or clicking quickly. In Advance Wars, that's not the case.
Yep, you can actually sit there and think and decide, all right, I need to send infantry to the north to capture those cities, while I have a few mechs to the south in the mountains to hold Scott at bay long enough for me to save up the money to buy a mega tank and then roll it over and destroy him.
Yep.
Stuff like that. Now, the game, I mean, we said the game's very puzzle-oriented, but also very tactical strategic. And the key element there is that one part of the game is Fog of War. And I like how the game can be played both ways. There are straight-up battles where the entire game is visible. You can see every unit, you can see everyone's money, you can see everything on the screen. And when you're playing like that, it's more of a puzzle game than anything. You know, move my fighter so it's just out of range of his fighter. Move my infantry so it can capture that city, and I know that his recon will make it one turn too late. And in a lot of the campaigns, especially in the advanced campaigns, which I'll talk about a bit in a minute, which are basically the super difficult campaigns after you beat the game itself, it'll get to the point where you have to move units to specific locations, and it's just a puzzle game of how can I get this infantry through this maze of units to the end before he dies. Stuff like that.
Yep. Let's talk about the differences into the three different games. The very first Advance Wars for the GBA was real simple. I mean, the biggest tank you had was a medium tank.
Well, it still had a lot of units.
It did still have a lot. Most of the units in the game were in the first one, but there were, you know, the biggest tank was a medium tank. The boats weren't that useful. They didn't have the wide variety of boats, and you know, it was a lot simpler game. The maps were a lot smaller and less complex. There were a lot less weird things on the maps, like in the later Advance Wars.
Yeah, the game was very much a straight-up introduce you to the game. In fact, before you play the game, there's a tutorial that takes you through a bunch of lessons on how to play the game. That's actually very, very well done. I give a lot of credit to the people who put that together.
Yep. And the game doesn't have a lot of different modes. I mean, there's the campaign, there's the war room, and it has the multiplayer, which isn't the most exciting multiplayer in the world.
Yeah, but the campaign itself is good. It's a great way to learn about Advance Wars. And I've noticed a lot of the people I know who played Advance Wars DS and had never touched the previous two didn't really do so well in the game, and to this day don't do so well because, I don't know, it's like you learn a lot of fundamentals playing Advance Wars 1. Mm-hmm. Also, you can get it for like $8. I highly recommend picking it up.
Now, Advance Wars 2 is sort of like the game that just improved leaps and bounds ahead of Advance Wars 1, and it's pretty much the best you can do with Advance Wars on the GBA.
Yes, I mean, in Advance Wars 1, there was a limited number of COs, and their powers were very generic. You know, one guy hits really hard, one girl's infantry is really, really good, one guy has really good long range, one guy is good in the snow, and when it snows, his things are more powerful. Stuff
and he
like
makes
that.
It snow.
Yep. And Advance Wars 2 added a bunch more COs that even the game out quite a bit more. There were a lot more subtle strategies, a lot more interesting COs that were somewhat difficult to use sometimes.
And they also added the extra units like the Neo tank, which is even better than the medium tank. And they also added the superpower. So, you know, a CO would have one power, but if he wanted to wait even longer, he could wait and fill up his meter even more to get an even better power.
Yep. And Advance Wars 2 overall is an absolutely fantastic game.
Oh, for sure. Especially if you compare it to GBA games. It's probably one of the best GBA games there is.
Yes, and in fact, I would say that the campaign, all things considered, in Advance Wars 2 was my favorite of all 3 games. In terms of just the fun and the difficulty and the challenge. See, Advance Wars DS, the campaign was, in my opinion, pathetically easy.
It was pretty easy. There was one mission I had a little trouble on, but then I got through it. Advance Wars 2, there were some missions that I just couldn't do, like the stupid battleships mission.
I laughed at you so much because I beat it on my first try.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a strategy thing. It's a puzzle thing, and I just couldn't solve that damn puzzle.
Yep. Now, the thing is, Advance Wars, all of them have a campaign and then an advanced campaign. And once you beat the campaign, which is the single-player game, which will take you a long time, there's a lot of missions, even in the first Advance Wars. The advanced campaign is the same thing again, only 1, it's a lot harder. 2, there's a lot less margin for error. 3, in a lot of cases, some of the maps are completely different, and there's different missions and everything. And the AI is also more direct and better.
Also, in Advance Wars 1, it's a lot harder to unlock everything. You have to, use certain COs on certain missions and crazy stuff like that.
Yep, starting with 2 and 3, you just buy them. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, in all the Advance Wars, as you beat things, you get money, and you can use that money to buy maps and unlock different things. Advance Wars 2 and 3, you just use your money to unlock all the characters and shit.
Now, in terms of difficulty, I'll talk about the advanced campaign, because to give you an example, like the second or third mission in Advance Wars 1, the enemy has a couple of tanks, and you have to beat him. In the advanced campaign, it's the exact same map, and you start with the exact same units, but now they have 3 medium tanks and a pile of tanks. And it's oh my god, how do I beat this? The advanced campaign in Advance Wars 1 was so difficult and so much of a precise puzzle that it got to the point that by the end of it, you would literally have to move every single unit in the exact perfect direction every turn or you would die. Not that, now it'll take a long time to win. You would die. It would be over. It was so difficult. I to this day, I can't believe I beat it. And going back, I probably couldn't beat it because I don't have that much patience anymore.
Yep. Now, Advance Wars DS was, of course, being on the DS leaps and bounds ahead of previous Advance Warses.
They added 1 million COs. They addressed one of the primary complaints people have had about the game was that in Advance Wars 1 and 2, naval units were all but useless, and a navy was never a viable strategy. They were just not worth it.
It was too expensive and hard to use, and even if you built battleships and stuff, submarines just come and destroy them, and it was very difficult.
Yep. Advance Wars DS added a bunch of extra new Navy units.
Like the Black Boat.
Yes, or the aircraft carrier.
Oh, the aircraft carrier.
And it also changed some of the powers of older units to make it so that you could actually have a navy and send it out to sea and have naval battles, and it added a lot to the game, in my opinion.
Oh, it added a whole lot. I mean, just the addition of, it used to be that the only reason to have a navy was to have battleships at sea that survived. If you could have battleships at sea that lived, you could use them to rain unholy death upon your opponent.
Yep, especially if you were Grit.
Every other naval unit was simply there to defend battleships or to destroy the enemy's battleships.
Yep, other than the transport, which served only to bring units across water.
Oh, that's correct. So yeah, also defending the transports. But now in Advance Wars DS, they added the aircraft carrier, which not only can airplanes land on it, but it can completely destroy any other aircraft within a huge radius. So the appeal of having battleships and aircraft carriers at sea actually makes it worth it to build a navy.
Yes, I mean, especially in large maps and playing against actual humans instead of the AI, very realistic military doctrine is important and very realistic military tactics in terms of, I want air superiority. I build fighters and such, and I claim air superiority. Now my bombers can fly around unmolested. But to get air superiority, I have to spend a lot of money, which I could have spent on things like tanks.
Yep.
And with these new units, you could shoot for naval superiority, which was just as powerful, just like in the real world.
Mm-hmm. And naval superiority often also means air superiority because the aircraft carrier is just that dangerous.
Yes.
It's just also that hard and expensive to defend. No, we're talking about the strategy again.
Yes. Well, I want to get back to at least the way the game flows, because before I was talking about how the game's a puzzle game, and Advance Wars 1 was a super puzzle game. Advance Wars 2, which is a much better game, and it's much more tactical, especially the advanced campaign. It's a lot less of this move a unit in a specific direction X pieces per round or you'll lose, and a lot more think of a strategy to overcome this enemy and you'll succeed. Advance Wars DS took this one step further, and the game is much more tactical in a lot of degrees, and even if you completely screw up in the single-player game, unless it's the advanced campaign, you can probably still win. But I said Fog of War. The game usually is totally open, and you can see all the units, but sometimes you can play in Fog of War mode, where you can't see everything, and now visibility and all that plays a bigger role. And that makes the game...
It played a role in the earlier Advance Wars, but in Advance Wars DS, it really actually becomes something.
I mean, especially playing against humans. It gets to the point where when you're playing with Fog of War, you can't see what the other person's doing all the time. The game is so much more strategic and tactical and so much more of a realistic military game. It's no longer a puzzle. Because now you have you can try things like secretly constructing a navy at your rear ports while you have a token defense at the front and then sneaking that navy around and suddenly launching a surprise attack on their southern shore.
Yep.
Awesome stuff like that.
Yep. The other thing, Advance Wars DS, there's a lot more modes. There's the combat mode, which is sort of like combat for the Atari.
It's crap.
It's silly and crap.
Silly and crap, but they threw it in the game. It was fun.
Yeah, it's a good way to get a lot of points to unlock stuff real quickly.
Yes.
They also added the survival puzzle modes and things. Those are actually they're not even like Advance Wars 1 where it's a puzzle but you don't know it. This is like, here is an Advance Wars puzzle. Solve it. Figure out how to do this. And they'll give you like 2 units and put you up on like this crazy map against a billion enemies. And you'll have to figure out how to win in like X turns.
It's great fun.
The puzzle mode is fantastic. The survival mode, that whole thing, I love it.
Now, the one complaint we always had about Advance Wars 1 and 2 was that they had a great wealth of multiplayer built into them. Multiplayer Advance Wars is a wonderful, wonderful experience, but playing multiplayer games on the GBA was utter hell with those tiny-ass little cables, and we have pictures of us at the shore doing this. We're all hunched around in a circle. If anyone sneezes or bumps their cable, the game crashes, and it was just miserable.
The DS has the wireless.
Oh my god.
The day is saved.
Playing wireless Advance Wars at the shore was one of the... that was the moment when the DS moved from a wonderful gaming system to my primary gaming system.
Yep. What else? They also added the dual strike, so instead of having just one commanding officer, you have 2.
And you can swap them back and forth, which kind of... It has pros and cons. You can turn it off in the game.
You can just play with one CO if you want.
But again, it adds a lot more depth of strategy and depth of tactics to the game.
Yeah, I mean, before you could just choose the guy who's good with infantry, and then that would be it. If you have 2 COs, you can pick the guy who's good with infantry and the guy who's good with tanks. So early game, you bring out your infantry, which are cheap, and then you save up your money doing that, and then you switch to tanks, and you're still good. You don't suck now. And there's also the dual strike powers, where if you fill up the meters on both of your COs, not only do both of them use their incredibly superpowers, but you take 2 turns, which is insane. It's actually, it's super insane, and it can turn the whole game around.
Now, I guess in conclusion, we've kind of reviewed the games. We're going to do an episode someday. Now, this will be way out in the future, because we're in no hurry to do this. We could do this anytime, about how to actually be good at Advance Wars and all the strategies therein, but... For now, if any of you have a DS, or just bought one, or a DS Lite...
or even if you just have a GBA.
Yeah, and you need a game, buy any and all Advance Wars games you can get your hands on. They're absolutely fantastic, and they're well worth the money.
Yep. I mean, Advance Wars is sort of like this sleeper hit, too. It's like, it wasn't widely advertised.
In fact, I poo-pooed it when I first heard about it.
No, I didn't poo-poo it.
And Scott had it, because I didn't have a GBA, and I saw it, and him and Luke and all them were really playing In fact... God, we have a story. To make a long story short, one of our friends pretty much failed out of graduate school because he was playing Advance Wars, trying to beat Advance Wars 1's advance campaign.
Yep.
And
that's a true story.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah. What was I saying?
I don't know.
Oh.
Right,
it was a sleeper hit. It wasn't advertised widely. It wasn't very well known, but it sold a shit ton of copies.
Yep, and I kind of poo-pooed it, and then I got a GBA, the Platinum one, from my parents for Christmas, which I was very happy with. And I saw Advance Wars 1 for sale used for like $8, so I bought it. And the game was amazing, and within a couple of weeks, I'd beaten the whole thing, and then within another couple of weeks, I'd beaten the advanced campaign. And then it wasn't too long after that Advance Wars 2 came out.
Yeah, so the reason I think I came up with the idea to do an Advance Wars episode now is, well, A, because Rim has been playing it again recently.
Yep, partly because I just needed some stuff to kill time. Now that I'm actually doing stuff at work, I needed some downtime with my brain to work on something logical.
Yep. And B, Advance Wars 1 came out, and as soon as it started to fade, Advance Wars 2 came out, it started to fade. Advance Wars DS came out, it started to fade. And now, Advance Wars has sort of disappeared from the public view. So I'm going to give it a little boost until Advance Wars DS2 comes out.
Yeah.
Or Advance Wars Wii. There is an Advance Wars, kind of an Advance Wars game for the GameCube.
Oh, what, Battalion Wars?
Yeah, don't buy that.
No, well, if you see it for like $5, pick it up.
I guess.
There are very few GameCube games that aren't worth a couple bucks.
That's true, but it's really...
As our friend Scott Johnson can tell you, he has every freaking game ever.
Yeah, but it's a bad game from what I hear. It doesn't have anything... it kind of has something to do with Advance Wars, but not really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that doesn't count, is
now,
what I'm saying.
As a final challenge to all of you out there, I defy anyone in our forums to consistently beat me at Advance Wars.
Too bad it doesn't have Wi-Fi.
I know.
That'll be in the next version.
Oh my god, if Advance Wars had Wi-Fi. Speaking of which, we said way back we were going to try to organize some sort of DS Wi-Fi gaming night. I think we should do that sometime soon.
Everyone forgot about it. What's wrong with you?
Because I want to do it. I want to do it.
Well, then it's all you.
All right, sometime probably after Otakon, I'm going to try to organize some sort of night where we'll all play a DS game. Hopefully Mario Kart.
Tetris, man. Tetris.
Yeah, Tetris is easier, but Mario Kart is awesome.
All right.
We'll do something.
Okay, then.
And that was Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for our opening theme.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com. If you like our podcasts, you'll love our forums. Make sure you visit them. You can send your email feedback to geeknights@gmail.com. And if you want, you can leave us a voicemail at 206-333-1537.
Geeknights airs every weeknight, Monday through Thursday.
Geeknights is recorded with absolutely no studio and no audience. But unlike those other talk shows, it's actually recorded at night.